Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The United Kingdom has got a new Prime Minister. He is the 10th British Prime Minister since 1980, when Margaret Thatcher was in power. In that period, Zimbabwe has only had two presidents. And I need not remind you that the change of guard was not a result of free, fair, and credible elections. The change of guard in 2017 was a result of a military coup, or as those who were behind the coup would put it, a military assisted transition. And it is not because the two men who have governed Zimbabwe these last 44 years, Robert Mugabe and Emmerson Mnangagwa, are great statesmen, men of vision. It's the exact opposite. These are corrupt, incompetent, and murderous thugs who have rigged elections, denying the people a meaningful say in the governance of the country for their own selfish reasons so that they could stay in power. And they have stayed in power all these years. A Japanese scholar and writer, Ken Yamamoto, he had been in Zimbabwe in the early 80s, said Zimbabwe had the potential to become the South Korea of Africa. A free nation, democratic, progressive, and at peace with itself. And yet today, 44 years later, we are a failed state, one of the poorest. Everything is in an advanced stage of rot and decay. The country's vast natural resources and wealth have become a curse because that is where the regime, the ruling elite, have managed to get the vast wealth to bribe those in various positions of power and authority to dance to their tune. State institutions like the judiciary, the police, the army, ZEC, which are supposed to play pivotal roles in maintaining law and order, justice, have all but given up that responsibility. They've now all become departments, ZANU-PF departments in all but name, because the regime has bribed them. We have got to sort our failed political system. I know that there are some people who want to make us believe that we can still make progress and work with the dictatorship. That is just nonsense. The present political system has failed. We have got to address that problem. The country's wealth is all very well, but unless we've got quality leaders, we're in trouble. Let's listen to this analysis given by British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher on the issue of good quality leadership.
Countries are not rich in proportion to their natural resources. If they were, Russia would now be the richest country in the world. Angola would be very rich, and there are many other countries that have a lot of natural resources, but they have not had an enterprise economy to develop those resources. Russia has everything: oil, gas, diamonds, platinum, gold, silver, timber, marvelous soil, but has been poor. She's also, on the second point, got very bad environment, the Aral Sea. I remember going to one communist country in about the 60s and seeing a power coming out of a chimney of brown gas, which of course is a nitrous gas. And I was absolutely horrified. I said, well, what are you doing letting that happen? The lungs of the people must be terrible. This is acid. You can't let that go on. Tact has never been my strong point, as you know. And it is the countries that have had the wrong system, which have not created the wealth, have not cared about people. Look at the other side. Japan, no natural resources. Switzerland, no natural resources. Taiwan, no natural resources. It is the political system which enhances the enterprise of the people and gives it a framework within which to operate, which will deal with this poverty.
It is the political system that has failed Zimbabwe. We have got a political system in which those in power believe they have the divine right to rule. They are not democratically accountable to the people. That is the root cause of our problem. The genesis of this problem can be traced back to our liberation war. It is said that Mahatma Gandhi and his fellow Indian nationalists debated the issue of should India wage an armed struggle to end British rule. The leaders themselves asked themselves the following two rhetorical questions. Number one, what kind of leader would the armed struggle throw up? The follow-up question was, would those leaders be the kind of men and women who would want to lead India? To ignore those fundamental issues has been one of our greatest weaknesses as a nation. We really have not addressed that problem. We have got a problem here. Our liberation war did throw up the kind of leader that Gandhi and his friends were concerned about. And they've come to rule the country. They believe they have the divine right to rule. Zimbabwe has had 2 presidents in 44 years. Not because the people like them and they can't get a more competent leader, but because these are thugs who believe they have the right to rule and they've used brute force to impose themselves. That is the problem. We have got to deal with that problem. We cannot pretend it is not the problem. Here's a short video clip of what Mnangagwa himself did in 2008, the only time Zimbabwe came close to holding free, fair, and credible elections. And when the regime realized that they had lost that election, Mnangagwa stepped in and staged an electoral coup. Yes, it is the same Mnangagwa who is now president of the country.
2008 patakaita ma-elections pakaposa papinda Tsvangirai ndandiri election agent ya-president. Ma-results abuda tiri pa-party headquarters vamutasa vanga vari secretary vedu ve-administration vamutasa muripi ndafona ndiri kwarusapi komogwenda kwarusapi seka ma-results achibuda kudai vanga aiwa zvako izvo Mnangagwa ndezvako endaenda kumusha ofisi vanga vabisa zvinhu zvavo zvose watofunga kuti zani yadini yaparara. President ofona zvakamira sei kati ndomamira zvakaita takatodini kateda sei manje mama ndikati abvudzai baba nditaurira baba gadzirai politburo cabinet musarangarira zvimwe zivi gadzirai chi cabinet asi nangoda kuti muzive kuti 2008 ma-results abuda vamutasa vakatiza.
As a country we face a generational transition. Vana vesa vari kuma below 35 they are crying out for help. The country is in a mess. Arusuru, we know we are inheriting a mess. We know this country has been left with nothing.
I'm assuring you that starting from tomorrow, you'll see a different nation from what you have seen or read on the news about these results and everything. Where we are going ahead there, the situation will be very different. What we said to our people, they could not see with their own eyes. We are going to act as we see it fit. We are prepared to go the whole distance.
It must be stated that in the 44 years, we did have many golden opportunities to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Notably, during the 2008 to 2013 GNU, the very fact that the people, many millions of people out there, still have no clue what the GNU, that the GNU was the golden opportunity for Zimbabwe to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, even now with the benefit of hindsight, speaks volumes of our problem. We, ZANU-PF, yes, has let us down, but we have let ourselves down too. We've not taken the trouble to understand what is it we want and how are we going to get out of this mess. It is not rocket science. In the mid-1990s, the nation came to a realization that ZANU-PF was a part of thugs. They were in power and they were determined to stay in power. They will never hold free, fair, and credible elections. And short of another military armed struggle to remove them from office, the option would be, let's get an opposition that will focus on getting the democratic reforms implemented so that we've got free, fair, and credible elections. That opportunity to get those reforms implemented. The golden opportunity was during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. Why millions of people still continue to fail to understand what the GNU was about beggars belief. I can understand the rural people in the rural backwaters not understanding it. What excuse do some of these people, these Zimbabweans, some of them with university qualifications, professionals in their own right, and yet they remain incredibly ignorant in this day and age? I repeat, the 2008 to 2018 was the golden opportunity for Zimbabwe to implement the democratic reforms. That opportunity was wasted. Mugabe bribed the MDC leaders with the trappings of high office, just as he had bribed his own ZANU-PF cronies. And they, and Morgan Tsvangirai and company, forgot about the reforms. That is the truth. Why some people continue to refuse to accept it, beggars belief. It is within our powers to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. It is within our powers to have a healthy and functioning political system. We just need to do it. The opposition, the MDC and CCC, have failed the nation. That is a fact.
Ndakabvamo ndapinda muDenmark, ndabvamo ndapinda muUK, ndabvamo ndapinda muGermany ndichisunga one sunga dozen.
This is just cheap politics. Chamisa and company had the opportunity to implement the reforms during the GNU. They failed to do so. And ever since the GNU debacle, they have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they're giving ZANU-PF political legitimacy. They participated regardless, out of greed. Again, why many people out there still cannot comprehend that basic historic fact beggars belief. MDC, CCC have been elected for one primary purpose: to implement the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. They sold out. ZANU-PF realized that as long as they can bribe the MDC leaders to forget about the reforms, to participate in flawed elections, they will get political legitimacy. In 2028 is the next elections for Zimbabwe. Last year's elections, Mnangagwa rigged those elections. SADC, the AU, election observers, condemned those elections. What they are. They were flawed and illegal. Millions of ordinary Zimbabweans participated in those elections because they believed Nelson Chamisa when he said he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. Of course, he was lying. He did not plug any vote-rigging loopholes. All he wanted is the people to participate so that he himself and a few of his friends could get their reward of the few gravitran seats. Chamisa and company are gearing to participate in 2028. And it is highly likely that there will be individuals, millions of ordinary Zimbabweans, who would believe another lie from Chamisa that you will win the elections, you will win rigged elections, an oxymoron in itself, and they will participate. And as long as people participate in their millions in those flawed elections, we will give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate this failed system. So the holy grail for Zimbabwe between now and 2028 is not so much to get the reforms implemented, because we know ZANU-PF will never reform itself out of office. And we also know that the opposition would never push ZANU-PF to implement any reforms. What we can achieve is to make sure that both ZANU-PF and their sidekick, MDC-CCC, know that people are not going to participate in a flawed election process. The right of every Zimbabwean to a meaningful vote, to free, fair, and credible elections is at the heart of this fight. That is what the people should be fighting for. And in this particular case, you don't need to take up arms. ZANU-PF knows that it needs the people to participate to give it legitimacy. Chamisa is prepared to lie to entice the people to participate for the sake of getting those few gravitran seats. It is for us to make sure that we are not easily fooled. We are not easily conned into participating in a flawed process to perpetuate this ZANU-PF dictatorship. I repeat, the holy grail is to make sure that people do not participate in a flawed election because they've been conned into believing that the opposition can win rigged elections. We can also be a stable country. Like Ken Yamamoto said, Zimbabwe can be the South Korea of Africa. We can emerge out of this ruin and become a peaceful, prosperous nation again. But we must start by getting our system, our political system, working. Thank you very much for joining me today, and have a good day.